This is another video that I've been wanting to check out. This was released today by the Copium Clinic. Community backlash over vital system receives huge change in Ashes of Creation. Copium Clinic is probably, I think he's probably my favorite Ashes of Creation dedicated channel for covering the game. He's got some really high quality content. Quite a small YouTuber. Let's check out his vid, see what he has to say. Copium Clinic, what a name. It's a fantastic name for a channel. I think it's very fitting, isn't it?
When is static rarity going away for gathering? Currently right now, people log in and then they know the timer and they're kind of keeping it on lockdown for some of the rare.
Yeah, I would let Red speak on how we are gonna even approach going forward with static rarity.
It's a trap!
There's a time period where something will regrow in the same spot with the same rarity. But after that time, there's a new check and, it'll spawn somewhere else. And part of the reason we do that is because we want to create situations where there's friction and conflict, where people will fight over these things. I think one thing we're looking at coming up is...
Oh shit, have we got some drama in the Ashes of Creation community? Again. new drama just dropped.
Right now...
Meaningful change coming to the gathering and artisan class systems in Ashes of Creation. The developers responded to a fair bit of backlash. Let's discuss on this week's visit to the Copium Clinic. First, yes, this camera sucks. I'm recording on a potato. My Sony is having some technical issues, so I ordered a new part. Intrepid came out with a really great article detailing how they're going to change some of the things with artisan, gathering, and refining, things that we had talked about in the last video. No, I'm not saying I speak for the community. I'm not a narcissist. I mean, narcissist. I know I'm not really a news guy here, but this topic is what we covered in the last.
Did he just fire some shots at Nuck then? Not catching strays from Copium Clinic over here. But I think I have heard about this issue. Basically in Ashes of Creation, and this is really, I do think this is stupid, by the way. You've got gathering nodes that spawn around the world. And an issue has been that each of the gathering materials have different rarities, right? You've got common, you've got rare, and then you've got epic, and then you've got legendary. Green, blue, purple, and orange. But the rarities of the nodes were static. So basically, if there was one tree in a certain area that would drop legendary, orange wood, legendary wood, people would camp it. And when the server came up, all of the nodes reset. So everyone would rush to go grab the orange materials. Essentially, it sounds like really dodgy design. I don't like the idea of that. It sounds like flawed design to me.
Video, and there are so many good changes here and some really important stuff that I wanted to provide a little news and analysis on and talk about what some of the implications are. I don't even know how I'm supposed to do this format. Am I supposed to look at the camera the whole time while I do it, or am I supposed to look?
Isn't static rarity like what RuneScape is though? No, because RuneScape doesn't have a rarity system for individual resources. RuneScape, you've got copper ore and that's it. It's just copper ore, iron ore. You don't have green copper ore, you don't then have blue copper ore, purple copper ore, legendary copper ore. So it's different. RuneScape doesn't have rarity. And in Ashes of Creation, you need the higher tier rarities to craft the best stuff. So the biggest guilds are just going to camp the static spawns with the highest rarity gatherables. So only they would be able to craft the good gear, if that makes sense. It sounds kind of dumb. I think it should be as random as possible.
Look away like Grappler does the whole time, just with my perfect slicked back hair and big old neck. So this was released today, March 13th. They say, glorious Alpha 2 testers, the data and feedback you've provided us, yada, yada, yada. Okay, we get it. Yep, thank you. We're listening to you. Roger. Let's get into the meat and potatoes. Thank you for listening to us. We wouldn't be following this game if you didn't, so really appreciate it. You guys are great. Okay.
Well, are they camping it? Does it deplete? I think it respawns when the servers go down and come back up, but I don't know if it respawns on a certain timer. But I guess if it does respawn on a timer, whoever mines it will then know when it's going to respawn next, if that makes sense. It's just a horribly designed system, and I actually had no idea that it worked that way. It doesn't seem to make too much sense to me. I think this is like a good thing that people are giving this feedback now. It's like the purpose of alpha, isn't it?
Okay. We're planning to introduce updates to the gatherable spawn system in our upcoming April 10th, April 24th.
That's the whole way they're going to create meaningful friction. I think the system is a style of system. There's enough friction in the game already. I think the friction that this would create would be unfun friction. It would be fucking tedious. So as soon as the servers restart, everyone just rushes to these locations and has to just rush to gather these statically spawned trees. And it's not very immersive or exciting either. If all of if you know that the rarity of every tree, you can already see what's going to happen. When the game releases, someone will make a virtual map on a website, some map website, and every rarity of every node will be listed, and there will be no excitement to chopping down a tree or mining a rock. As a new player, if you see a rock, you'll think, oh, it's fucking garbage. It's just going to be common rarity because all of the good stuff's locked down. There'll be no excitement. So I think I understand your point of view that it creates friction, but I think there's enough friction, and the downsides of this system are greater than the benefits, in my opinion.
4th and May 8th. Build updates of Alpha 2. These changes will be designed to make gathering more engaging and rewarding. Gatherable spawn clustering by rarity introduces variability in spawn times, amounts, and locations, making rare gatherables require continued exploration to acquire. That's nice. Instead of static spawn locations, gatherables will dynamically respawn at new locations within larger spawning areas.
Thank God for that.
Meaning that when a gatherable resource is acquired, it won't return to the same location.
Brilliant.
Huge. Our goal is to maintain the excitement of discovering a high rarity gatherable area. However, this knowledge should come with the understanding that others will also discover and act on it. The days of logging back in at the exact same spot to find that legendary copper 2 hours later are over. Well,
fantastic. W.
Hallelujah. Okay, so let's dive in on this a little bit. So previously, as I talked about in my last video, when you would find a legendary copper node that gave you 5 copper ore, you would come back 2 hours later and it would respawn on the minute, and you hit it and you get the exact same amount, you get the exact same rarity, and then you can come back another 2 hours later and the exact same thing happens. So
the previous system, the way it worked is whoever found it first would have the timer down, so only they could remine it. So it was a really bad system before. I'm glad they've got that sorted. This is one of the good things about alpha testing.
This caused a lot of people to just spawn camp. There was a mad rush.
People would be fucking raging if that made it into the full release of the game.
The first few minutes when the server would open, and as I make this video, I am logged out of Braidwood Spot waiting for the servers to come online. And then everything after that, all the high rarity stuff would just seemingly disappear because people would log in, they'd hit their stuff on the timer, log out, and you would never be the wiser. In the last live stream, they talked about this a little bit. They talked about how they wanted static rarity because they wanted people to compete over resources. Yeah, chat hated that answer and blew up. So it's really cool to see they are responding in a positive direction. I mean, there was kind of a logical issue there, like, oh, hey, we want people to fight over high rarity stuff. But if other people don't know it's high rarity, how is that going to cause any conflict? How are they going to fight over those things? Seemed a little strange. In fact, the only time I've ever had conflict over resources is when they're in big clusters. So there's that spot in between Miralith and Sunhaven where there's a bunch of braidwood trees there. One time I logged in when the server had just opened, and there were a bunch of flagged up guys, all part of one guild, and they were end capping people, and they were trying to keep them from harvesting the trees there. So yeah, when there are big clusters of things, that does form some friction. That is cool. Okay, so going back to the article, the things that they're changing, spawn times. That is so needed.
I think that's the times where it does create cool friction events are probably few and far between, though. It's probably not worth it overall.
Wood was every 4 hours on the dot. Things like stones were every 1 hour, metal was every 2 hours, and et cetera. It just went on like that. Everything, they had these set spawn timers for those materials. And the fact that they're introducing variability in the spawn timers is huge. Next, they say they're
Surprised it wasn't variable to start with. It's quite an obvious thing that you could foresee being an issue.
changing amounts, or they're having variability with the amounts. So my question is, does that mean that a large node can eventually be a small node? Because right now in trees and mining, for example, you have a large and a small. So a large will yield 5 of that material. A small spawn of that will yield 2. So I wonder if they're going to just maybe rotate between 5 and 2, or there will be variability between 5 and 2. I don't think it's going to be random. I don't think it's going to be 6 and 3 or 1. I think the coding of the game already has large and small. Who knows? They could change that. But anyways, next they're changing is locations. That's great. Then they clarify and say, meaning that when a gatherable resource is acquired, it won't return to the same location. So it sounds like when you hit it, it's guaranteed not coming back to that same spot, which is cool. And then as a result of all of these changes, you won't be able to go back for the exact same rarity because everything's changed already.
I mean, that makes sense. That's the only way you could do it, really, without it being a nightmare. Need a system like Albion Online where you see the rarity of the resource spots even when they're gone. If you was to use the non-randomized system, I suppose so. And then, yeah, it would create friction because people would be waiting for it because they know it's going to spawn there. But there's so many other systems in Ashes of Creation that creates player friction. I think if everything creates player friction, it's just going to be a pain in the ass because some people are going to want to play this game and just chill with it. Some content could just be chill content. I think gathering should be chill content in Ashes. In Albion, I think it makes sense in Albion for players to fight over the high tier resources. But in Ashes, because there's so many other systems that do that, I'd rather gathering just be a relaxing activity.
The location, the timer, and the amount. So that's great. Okay, surveying updates. Surveying will be an essential tool in adapting to these exciting changes. In our current iteration, some testers have mastered ways to optimize gathering spawn times, which presents an opportunity to make the system more engaging for everyone. With these changes, testers will be able to utilize a new surveying item to discover the general location of specific gatherables and find rarer instances of them. Testers will also be able to gather information about gatherables that are waiting to respawn, giving them the opportunity to contest these respawn areas. The evolution of the system strives to encourage continued exploration with surveying, increasing friction in highly sought-after areas over time. Wow. So we are getting the surveying system here sometime in the next few weeks. It's either going to be April 10th, 24th, or May 8th. This gives us information on the surveying system that we haven't had before. What's cool about this is you place your surveying pylon down, it's going to reveal some area, right? In my last video, when I clipped them talking about how the...
That's interesting. So with the surveying thing, you can basically go out and deliberately look for gatherables rather than just being a casual adventurer that's out in the world and you just happen across a gatherable. That's pretty cool.
The survey pylons work. Pretty sure you place it down and there's some geometric area that it will reveal information on. Now we know a little bit about the information that you're going to get from that. So based on what it says here, with these changes, testers will be able to utilize a new surveying item to discover the general location of specific gatherables and find rarer instances of them. I wonder if you place down your survey pylon and then it highlights certain rarities or it shows them on some kind of UI. Interested to see how that one plays out. Some more serious information that we're getting about the surveying system is that when you...
I think I also heard that the survey system reveals certain gatherables that won't be displayed in the worlds without it. Like it gives you access to like hidden gatherables, which is pretty cool.
You place down the survey pylon and it reveals the geographic area, you're going to find out what's about to respawn. My guess on the way it works is you put down a survey pylon and it reveals a certain geometric area where certain gatherables will spawn. What's cool about it is it sounds like they'll tell you the rarity of these gatherables that are about to spawn. Now that
Survey also increases rarity and quantity. Yeah, that's cool. I like the idea of that.
That's where I think they actually achieve their objective of finding some soft friction, right? Because I place a survey pylon down in some spot where I know this willow is going to show up, and let's say Q is looking for some willow too, looking for some legendary willow. He also looks in the same area. We can see, oh hey, we know that a legendary willow is going to spawn here in 20.
That's a way better way of adding friction to the gathering, is if it's basically done through people that are using the pylons, because you both know that you're looking for the same thing. So it allows people who are not specifically seeking it out with the pylons to gather normally and still have exciting loot. But it also allows for the friction, so it's like you get best of both worlds.
20 minutes. So we call up our guys and we all show up and we're all ready to go. I think this is great. It's an engaging system. It makes gathering very active and very proactive. What I don't like is when people just have these set routes that they run over and over again on timers so they know when everything pops up. This way, by intentionally looking for something, it makes it easier to go after. How many times have you been after just one particular gatherable, but you couldn't seem to find it, where, the previous day, that's all you could find. But now, since you're looking for it, it seems like it's never there. Well, with the surveying system, now it seems like gathering will be so much more intentional. I love it. It's going to make the game a lot less frustrating for gatherers. Fantastic. Okay, next section here, additional artisanship updates. So gatherables will...
Interesting. Yeah, I like the sound of that change. Well, it'll obviously require some testing to see if any other issues come up, but sounds like a straight improvement over what there was before.
Appear in logical immersive locations such as weeping willows near riverbanks and minerals like copper in caves, while still maintaining randomness and rewarding exploration. Gatherable spawn clusters use a weighted system to inform their chance to spawn at their viable tagged locations. This means that players can learn the locations in which certain gatherables have a higher or lower chance to spawn, but it will still allow encountering eureka moments.
Oh, I just assumed it worked that way anyway. Yeah, I just assumed that the gatherables spawned in the logical areas anyway, like caves and stuff. Apparently not, but seems like it's going to be more logical now. That's good.
Okay, let's break that down a sec. So they're using their backend system to assign values that will make it more or less likely for resources to spawn in a certain place. What's cool about this is that it's likelihoods. It's not guarantees. It's not weeping willows will always spawn at riverbanks every single time. It says the chances, right? Chances to spawn at their viable tagged locations. Cool, makes sense. The variability makes this game way more fun. When everything's static, nobody likes that. It doesn't feel alive. That's not very immersive. This new system they're talking about is fantastic. And then when they say players can learn the locations in which certain gatherables have a higher or lower chance to spawn, that's great. It rewards gatherers who actually care enough to go throw down the pylons, find out where the material they're looking for spawns more frequently. They continue and say, in addition to all these gathering system improvements, processing stations will give players the flexibility to choose the size of the job they want to process, rather than being restricted to set batch sizes. Oh, thank you. This is so nice.
Okay, that's good. The last time I did any serious gathering in an MMO was probably World of Warcraft, and also New World, but I believe they also had set static respawn points. I know New World did, because I used to open up New World map back at launch, and I used to run like laps around the Windswood area, gathering all the iron ore back at launch. And then as soon as I saw another player doing the same thing, fuming, absolutely raging, and I wished I could like flag up and kill them. But I think to flag up, you needed to go into the town, so I couldn't do that in the open world, right? Yeah, I used to do that a lot. When it comes to, I think for every MMO where there's like some kind of gathering system, you always, without fail, get these external websites, like I think newworldmap.com, for example, genshinmap.com. There's like loads of map websites for almost every game. Then you run your laps around the zone, gathering everything. I enjoyed New World Gathering. It was relaxing, and the sound design was peak. Me too. Absolutely loved it. It was my favourite thing to do in New World, because the world was beautiful. Actually gathering the stuff was satisfying. The sounds of mining, the sounds of chopping a tree. It was, that was the best part of the game for me.
Man, doing 1, 5, 10, 25, 50 batches is terrible. It has been rough. I am very glad we're moving on beyond that placeholder system. Processing recipes will also allow mixing and matching different rarity gatherables similar to crafting. Okay, let's talk about that. Let's say I have a rarity value 1 material and a rarity value 3 material. If I'm making a craft that, I use both of those, it will come out at rarity level 2. So it averages. Love the system. Everyone likes it. Provides a lot of customization. Processing you had to match the rarity every single time. So if you have, a rarity level 1 and a rarity level 3 thing that you're trying to process, wouldn't happen. Had to be the exact same one lined up every time just to get the process through. And I know
sounds a bit like a bit boring and predictable having it that way.
People are concerned about having an excess flood and inflation of legendary refined materials. And I think that's legitimate. Intrepid's going to have to be really careful how they set those values, right? I wonder if they do a percent.
In Ashes, I think I asked this question before the last time I streamed the game. You cannot turn a green gatherable into a blue gatherable, can you? You can't turn 10 greens into 1 blue, right? That's not how it works. You have to have the specific rarity. I think that's how it works, right? Not currently. I feel like that's how it should work. Logically. In most games, they would have something where if you get unlucky and you can't get a high rarity, you can upgrade it. But then maybe that also brings about other problems as well. Maybe that makes getting a legendary gatherable less exciting. I'm not sure. Or maybe you could gamble. You could gamble 10 greens to maybe upgrade it. So it wasn't guaranteed. Maybe that could be more fun. You can process it higher and craft it higher if you have better gear. Okay.
Chance, kind of like, enchanting, hey, you have X% chance that this will work. Maybe with refining, it's X% chance that it ends up this rarity or X% chance that it ends up this rarity. And they can just adjust those numbers accordingly to make it so we're not experiencing rampant inflation of all these legendary refined goods. Okay, this next line blew my mind when I read it. Gathering tools will be converted into equipable items like bags and artisanship gear. Okay. That is a huge change in the economy and the market of everything. So what this means now is there will be a market for tools. Previously,
is that not how it worked before? Gathering tools will be converted into equipable items like bags and artisanship gear. So how did it work before? I haven't done much gathering in Ashes. I just assumed that would be the case. That makes sense, right?
there was no market for tools. All tools were soulbound. You make it, it instantly equips or it goes in your bag, and there's nothing you...
It was just an item in your backpack. You can actually equip it. Okay.
You can do to trade or give it to anyone else. Now, based on what this says, it sounds like there will be, I could make a tool and I could sell it to you. So this is a huge change.
I assumed that was how it would be anyway. Okay. I mean, that makes sense. I just assumed that's how the system worked. I didn't know it didn't work that way.
I'm excited to see what the tool crafter market ends up being. They continue and say, we're also refining how gatherable rarity impacts crafted item stats, ensuring gatherable rarity feels more meaningful. Okay, so let's say a craft takes 10 resources. Let's say you use 9 common and then you throw in 1 common to replace the 10th. Well, what that does is that bumps the stats up just a little bit. And then If you use more uncommon, then it'll keep bumping the stats up until it hits a certain threshold where it says, okay, now this is actually an uncommon resource. So the item. So now the item is green. And sometimes when you get a step up in rarity of the item, it will add a new stat line. So an example of this would be the long sight bow. When you go from rare to heroic, it adds the dexterity line. And
Okay.
so now you have that stat. And let's say you use 9 heroic, and then you instead use one epic material instead of the 10th one being heroic. Well, once again, that just starts raising the stats within that heroic scale that it could be. And then all the way up, you do that again, and then it hits a certain threshold, and then it becomes epic. With a long sight bow, you don't get a new stat line when you hit epic. Anyways, that's how that works. So it sounds like they're changing that. It says, they're refining how gatherable rarity impacts crafted item stats. I wonder if they're going back to their old system.
Thanks for the message, Japanese chatter. I don't know how to read your name, but thanks for that.
So back how it used to work was there were required materials, and then there were the flexible materials. So the required materials, let's say you're making the long sight bow, it takes a bunch of braidwood, and then the optional material, you can put a type of material in there that will change a stat line in the item. So crit chance, stuff like that. So I'll be interested to see if this is what they're talking about, if they are actually now implementing this full system the way that they had talked about it in a previous live stream. But hey, good news, guys. Big changes coming. I know I don't...
Sounds like they're doing a lot of logical changes that you would kind of assume to be the case anyway. And someone in the chat said earlier, why does it feel like they're reinventing the wheel? And I see what you mean there. It does feel that way for some of these things.
Really do news type stuff. I just felt like this was pretty important. I love PvP and artisan class stuff, so I hope this was good. Let me know what you think about the changes coming up in the comment section below. It helps my algorithm. Give me a like, and then subscribe if you like my content. So that's my diagnosis. I'll see you at our next appointment. Oh, and be careful with copium.
Is highly addictive.
GG. Good video. The Copium Clinic. He's basically become one of the main Ashes of Creation content creators. I'll link the video in the chat. Go give him a like. Yeah, good channel.